what if one of the world's biggest trade deals isn't really a deal at all? You've seen the headlines, bold claims, breakthrough between the US and China. Sounds like a major leap forward, right? But behind the flashing headlines and polished press conferences lies a very different reality. Because while Washington celebrates a diplomatic win, Beijing isn't exactly popping champagne. So, what's going on here? And more importantly, what does this mean for your job, your wallet, and the global economy? Let's unpack what really happened and what they might not be telling you. On May 11th, following 2 days of closed-door meetings in Geneva, the U.S. government declared a major step forward in trade talks with China. The announcement came straight from top Trump officials, U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. They called it a substantial agreement, a moment of progress after years of economic tension. On the surface, it sounds hopeful. Two superpowers, responsible for nearly 40% of global GDP, finally making moves to ease years of tariffs, conflict, and uncertainty. But just as the U.S. made its announcement, China's Vice Premier He Lefebvre took to the microphone and said something entirely different. Instead of a deal, he talked about setting up what's known as a consultation mechanism. That's diplomatic speak for, let's keep talking. No binding agreement, no signed documents, no clear terms, just an agreement to continue the conversation. So the U.S. calls it a deal, China calls it a discussion. That's not a minor translation issue. That's a fundamental disagreement on what just happened. Think of it like two people walking out of a meeting. One tells everyone they just closed a business deal, while the other says, "We agreed to grab coffee again next week." That's exactly what we're seeing play out on the global stage. This isn't the first time the US and China have tried to cool things down with dialogue. Remember the strategic economic dialogue or the comprehensive economic dialogue? Big names, big promises, and most of them fizzled out the moment tensions returned. What's more troubling this time is that there's no mention of core issues that have long caused friction: intellectual property theft, forced technology transfer, and state subsidies that give Chinese firms a major advantage. Nothing in this new mechanism addresses those, and nothing suggests tariffs will come down anytime soon. So again, where's the deal? Let's not forget, this trade war wasn't just about politicians arguing. It hit real people. Hard. When President Trump imposed a jaw-dropping 145% tariff on Chinese imports, nearly $600 billion in trade froze. China retaliated with 125% tariffs of their own. And just like that, the world's most important trade route nearly collapsed. American farmers watched crops rot with no buyers. Car parts and electronics got more expensive. Global supply chains scrambled. Small businesses laid off workers. Consumers paid the price, literally. So yes, even a whisper of peace is welcome. But is this really peace? Or just a pause? For the White House, even symbolic progress helps. Trump recently signed a smaller trade agreement with the UK, easing tariffs on British vehicles. Combined with this China news, it paints a picture of diplomatic momentum. But again, where's the substance? Trade analysts aren't convinced. Many are urging caution. They say this announcement may be more about optics than outcomes, more about headlines than hard results. It's useful politically, but not necessarily economically. Why? Because nothing concrete has changed. No tariff cuts, no new protections for intellectual property, no promises on market access for American businesses in China. Even China's careful wording speaks volumes. When one party to a deal refuses to call it that, it usually means there's no deal. If you've ever walked away from a conversation thinking you solved a problem, only to realize the other person saw it completely differently, you know how dangerous that can be. So how does this affect you? Well, if you own or work for a company that depends on international trade, this uncertainty is paralyzing. Imagine you're running a tech firm that sources parts from China. If there's even a chance tariffs could rise again, would you invest in new equipment? Expand your staff? Probably not. That hesitation ripples through the economy. It means slower growth, fewer jobs, and less innovation. Even large manufacturers are waiting for real terms before they change supply chains or make big bets on exports. So here's the bottom line. Yes, the US and China are talking again. That's better than silence. But talking isn't the same as solving. Right now, this deal is more like a handshake than a contract, a political signal, not an economic solution. Could it lead to real progress down the road? Absolutely. But for now, all eyes are on what happens next, and whether this fragile dialogue can turn into lasting action. And here's a question for you. If you ran a business reliant on global trade, would this announcement make you feel more confident or more confused? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's make sense of this together. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more clear, thoughtful breakdowns on the issues that impact your money, your future, and the world. Until next time, stay informed and stay sharp.